Welcome back. It is always a good day when I wake up. First of all, I like, hey, cool, I'm here. I give thanks. Took a nice walk in the neighborhood with the puppy, or I should say, smell. It's been raining in Southern California a lot in January. And so she and I are going out. And of course, she's smelling every single leaf, every piece of bark, every plant, every dog we walk by. So it's been wonderful. I love the rain. I really love the rain. So thank you for joining us. This is the Next Room podcast. I have a great guest for you today. But first, before I introduce Calista, I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to all of the people that are sharing, downloading, and listening across the globe. I put out a map the other day on the Facebook page, and it was like shocking how many cities, of course, in the United States, but also all across Canada. Canada's a great big market for me. And some of the cities I don't know how to pronounce, but I'll just say a huge whopping thank you to our friends north of us. I love Canada. I don't think I've ever met a Canadian person that I haven't really bonded with. There's something very chill and hang 10 about them. They're just good people. So thanks to Canada. And in the United States, a few states, quite a few that are really showing up. Michigan, of course, hometown, woo, woo. Massachusetts, Florida, the Carolinas, both north and south, big markets down there. Ohio, Colorado, Oregon, Washington, Texas, of course, California, where I live now. I wouldn't expect anything less out of you Californians. Arizona, Kansas, Alabama, and New York. So that's just a handful. So thank you so much. And then it brings me to the land down under, Australia. I don't even know how it all got started, but my guest and I, we were kind of talking about it before she came on about our connection. I met Calista through the podcast. She had been listening. She sent me this lovely message. And then one thing led to another and a friendship developed. And then she told me a story about what happened with her mother during COVID. And I was like, oh my God, that's like some pretty heavy grief. You need to come on the show and talk to me about it. She is from Melbourne. Her name is Calista Stuttard. She's just a beautiful woman, and I love hearing from her. She's very vibey and intuitive, and she's been pretty much swimming through a pretty sizable vat of grief due to losing her mother just a short couple years ago. So without further ado, Calista, welcome to the Next Room. Thank you for joining me and for stripping down the barriers and sharing your story. I know how painful it has been for you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. Ironically, I'm sitting in my bedroom at the moment and I just had a white butterfly fly across the window.
Of course.
So
Hi,
Mom's
Mom.
definitely here. Hi,
Yeah.
Mom.
So let's start off by, if you don't mind, I know it's painful, but it's kind of the whole purpose of this show is to kind of peel back all those layers and let other people know that they're not alone in grief, because grief never ends. We just learn how to function with it and kind of, I don't know, almost embrace it. So talk to me about your beautiful mom and what happened, because I know it was a really sad story.
Yeah, well, it was pretty much it was quite rapid the way that things went down. My mom was moved into an aged care facility in Winnipeg, back in don't know what month it was in 2020 or 2019. And when COVID kicked in, she was transferred from one facility to another, and then um, things started to get real really quickly. She was in a situation where I saw the poop storm, so to say, from Melbourne, because we had aged care facilities, just, people passing away so suddenly and quickly. And I had actually spoken to the manager of the aged care facility where my mom was at while we were in lockdown, and I was on a 5K radius walk that we had. Um, and I said to him, you need to shut it down, and you need to get an army in there, because you don't have the capacity of people that can help with this situation. And they were like, no, we're good. Um, and then, yeah, 30th of October. I'll backtrack really quickly. She was in she was in hospital because she wasn't eating properly. We got on the news a few times because of all the stuff that was happening. Then, when she was admitted into hospital, she was basically told that she was going to have to quarantine for 2 weeks when she got back to the aged care facility. And that to me was just, I was devastated because I thought my only uncle that goes to visit her couldn't even see her. And you could see him in news reports standing outside the aged care facility where she couldn't even be visited. Um, and then 30th of October, I got the phone call to say that she was quote unquote asymptomatic, but she's fine. Like she was fine. She'll be okay. Um, and we organized for a FaceTime call at 11 o'clock in the morning on the 5th of November. But on the 4th of November, I got the phone call that she had already passed
Mm,
and she was all by herself.
mm,
I found out soon after that she was in a hallway
mm.
in the dark, like just kind of waiting
Did
for somebody to come and attend to her. And
did
it was
she have
just,
yeah, did she have COVID?
she had COVID. Yeah, she was asymptomatic, but she tested positive when she got back to the aged care facility.
Right.
And it was, the numbers were climbing like crazy.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
had spoken to management and said, you need to get this under control because the actual people that they're caring for are going to start being affected.
Hmm.
And just some of the video footage I saw of my own mother was just like, just wasn't her anymore. Like,
Mm.
yeah, it was devastating, absolutely devastating. I don't think that you can get a primal cry the way that I cried the day that I took that phone call. Like the fact
Yeah.
that I couldn't even talk to her. I missed that phone call. I missed that FaceTime video. It was just absolutely devastating.
Yeah. Was she was she able-bodied other than being in an aged facility? Was she aware of what was going on? Did she have all of her faculties?
She didn't have all of her faculties. She was switched on. She knew that there was a pandemic that was going on. At 69, I didn't think that she should be in an aged care facility, but at the same
Wow.
time, she did have a head injury from many years ago that kind of left her with a little bit of disability and functions. So we all thought that that was best for her, but we didn't think we were going to see her demise so quickly. So it was, yeah, it was quite devastating to get a phone call like that. Like she's, 30th of October to 4th of November. It was just like boom, boom, boom.
Wow. Did the, facility were they held accountable for what happened and how that all kinda came down?
Nope,
Wow.
nope. Um, I got a condolence call, but it was a while. I could go through the emails, but yeah, it was a while before I got the condolences. Um, but what was more alarming was the fact that after my uncle finally had access to go into her room, he noticed that things were missing.
Oh,
So
no. Oh,
there
boy.
was looting. There
Mm.
was an iPad missing. There
Oh,
was
boy.
jewelry missing. And yeah, she had always suspected that there was money being taken or something was being done, but we couldn't really prove it.
Well,
And
sure.
it nailed it right on the head as soon as we inquired about the iPad, especially. Like that was the iPad. I was supposed to have that FaceTime call with her. And for somebody to take that was just beyond belief. I couldn't believe
No.
that that could happen during a pandemic. But I
Yeah.
suppose, yeah, pandemics, I think, obviously will bring up not the not so good in some people, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, it was an interesting time for everybody on the planet. Some really beautiful moments came out of it, some very tender moments, and some very loving occurrences happened, as well as other things, the other side. Um, so, where do you go from here? You are in Australia, your mother is in Canada, you've just lost this person that you absolutely love and adore. How do you process what happened? What have you been doing to kind of move through this and kind of come out the other side to where you can grow from it, I guess?
Your podcast, amongst quite a few others, were the only way that I got through a lot of every day.
Mm,
I couldn't listen to music for a long time, just because I thought that music was something that was joyous and happy, and I thought I'm not at that place where I deserve to be happy, because I I went from the 30th to the 4th to the 5th, missing that FaceTime call, to the 12th of November having a Zoom funeral, like sitting on
wow.
my partner's lap and just sobbing and just, but I try to find solace. I'm a very heavily spiritual person. And, I started seeing white butterflies everywhere, everywhere. And just little things, like little symbolic things, like um, asking for signs. After I read your book, um, the first book, I found solace in how you had your story with your mom with the dimes and the 10-cent pieces. So my symbol was the white butterfly, the 1111s, walking to work one day and feeling just really sad, um,
Mhm.
and picking up a maple leaf, like a bona fide massive Canadian maple leaf. And
Right.
I took it to work, um, and I let it lay there to dry out. And I only worked 3 days a week in the office. So the following week I was walking to work and I was like, I need a sign. And I needed I needed a white feather, and I needed it to like literally land in front of me. And it did. So I picked it up and I went and I laid it on top of this maple leaf at work, and it literally wrapped around
Mm.
this white feather like a cocoon.
Mm.
And if I can show, I don't know if you could see it. I got the
Oh,
tattoo.
oh, wow. Wow, that's beautiful. Doesn't do our
Yeah,
radio audience any good, but it's a really cool tattoo that she has on her arm. It was almost like a metaphorical hug. Here you've got this maple leaf, which is, very much all about Canada. And you asked for the feather, and then you lay the feather on top of the maple leaf, and then the maple leaf hugs the feather. Wow, it's so beautiful. Were you connected with the next room or the next realm or heaven or whatever you would like to discuss it as previously before your mother transcended?
absolutely. My grandmother, before it was actually pinned a near death experience, my grandmother, she had a really bad car crash years ago, and confided in me afterwards that her heart had stopped for several minutes while she was being revived, and she had seen her body. Uh, yeah. Um, I always thought that that was just a tall tale. But she was very scared at the time to say anything to me, because she thought she'd get like a Section 52 on her and get put into a psych ward or something. But my uncle validated that it was a story that did happen. And she always taught me about spirit. And she always said to me, when you wake up, you need to document, write down, put things in your phone, even, like, because we can do that these days. So I've got like a little folder of dreams, memories, and
Good.
thoughts. And I've always had symbolic moments like that have always happened. If I ask for it, it usually happens. And I think you just have to be in that right headspace for it. Um, I've lost an earring. Star, suns, and moons are my sign. My mom used to give me everything star, suns, and moons. And I lost my star one day, and I asked my daughter Zoe to see if she could find it on the way to a bus stop I used to walk past. Couldn't find it, but a week later, on a footpath that I barely ever walked, that same earring, I found it like a week later. Um, but yeah, everything spiritual, I've always had that, and it's because my grandmother taught me to. It's not all just about religion. It is about just being spiritual and asking for.
Right.
that divine intervention.
Yeah. Isn't that lovely too? I mean, in the middle of this heavy grief over losing this incredible person that you love so deeply, and there's nothing, you can't replace that relationship in the human form once they leave us. Um, but here you're finding light and signs and joy, and you're receiving these messages. And you were just talking about music. Talk to me about the song that you had told me about earlier. What is the significance with it's Queensryche, right?
Yeah, it's a song called, oh, I'm gonna cry. It's called Silent Lucidity.
Okay. Beautiful song.
A beautiful song. First time I heard it, mom was in the bathroom crying because grandma had just been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And I
Oh,
can hear her
goodness.
crying on the other side of the door,
Mm,
going, why is this happening? Why so soon? Because grandma was only 62 when she went. She went fast. And
man.
I was honored to be there when she took her last breath. So that I was very humbled by. Um, and then I came to Australia. I was on a working visa for like 1 year. Um, Fell in love, and my now ex-husband and I, we got engaged, and we were trying to work out a song for the wedding to walk down to, because we were going to get married on the millennium. And we argued for ages over it. And then he ran into the front lounge and he goes, I think I've got the song. And he started to play the first few strums of the guitar, and I burst into tears and I said, we need to use that song for the wedding, but mom can't know. I said she can't know until the actual night that she's holding my arm and we're walking down the aisle. And so we kept it secret and we went step by step, got to the Arboretum and the amphitheater. Right as the last lyrics, I'm smiling next to you, we're playing. And my husband and I got married right at the stroke of midnight and 2 seconds. So unofficially, the Melbourne Millennium couple. Um, but yeah, that
Great.
that was monumental. And then yeah, and it was like when my uncle asked me, what song do you want to use for tribute to mom? And immediately I was just like, it has to be Silent Lucidity. It has to be the full circle. Has to be the she lost her mom, she held my arm, she let me go, gave me to my husband, and then I had to see her go.
Mm,
Not the greatest way, but and since then with COVID, when the masks came off, I remember going down to the park to visit a friend who makes these lovely crystal macrames that I get. And I got her to do a beautiful, can't find it at the moment. I think it fell down, but I've got this beautiful amber stone that I had with mum's ashes put into it. And I gave it to my dear friend Freya. And I asked her if she could take care of it and make sure she puts a protection of macrame with a little chain on it. And I met her at the arboretum that I got married at. And when I gave it to her, it was 111. And when she parted ways with me, I went and I stood right in front of that same spot that I got married at, and looking around at everybody and seeing everybody's laughing, everybody's barbecuing, no masks. It was the first breath of fresh air. And I
mm,
put that song on and I marched down the aisle almost as if mum was with me in spirit, holding my arm.
mm,
And I could literally feel her when we got through to the amphitheater. And it was just the most, I could literally see her. It was
mm,
such a beautiful moment.
mm. She was with you. You know,
Absolutely.
she was absolutely with you. What was your mother's first name?
Donna.
Donna.
Yeah. And
Beautiful.
ironically, the second jab that I had to get for COVID was a lady named Donna. And she comes from a background that her name wasn't supposed to be Donna. So the fact that she actually gave me that jab, and I was like, I walked to the train station afterwards and it was 11:11. I thought, like, you can't make that stuff up,
No, you can't.
but
I have a great Donna story. So, I'm the baby of 6. So there was Lynn, there was Gail, there was Patty, and my dad was patiently waiting for a Donald Jr. And then they had their 4th girl who became Donna. So he never got his Donald, but a few years later, he ended up with my brother, who is a Thomas, which is great. So, yeah. So Donna
That's
isn't that wild? So didn't get the
well,
Donald, got the Donna.
well, because I knew I was only going to have baby girls. I don't. I've got 3 beautiful step boys, but I didn't. I always knew I was going to only have girls, and so I was given the honor by my ex-husband. I can name them their first names. So I've got Zoe and Riel
Oh, I
for
love that.
Louis Riel in Winnipeg. Um, but he's like, I get to name them by their middle names. So Riel's middle name is Bethany, but Zoe's name was Raedon, Raedon. And it was my ex-husband's mother's middle name, Ray, Rae, and mom's first name, Don, Raedon.
Nice. Oh, I love that.
So yeah,
That's
so
great to
we
honor our loved ones in those unique ways, whether we're naming a child or, I love that you put some of your mom's ashes in a stone. That's really unique. I love that. So cool.
yeah,
Really beautiful. So what are you learning now? Like what if you just tuned in, Calista Stuttard is my guest um and I wasn't fishing for a compliment earlier about the podcast at all, but that was very lovely that you brought that up. Calista started listening to my podcast. She's in Melbourne, Australia. One thing led to another, and here she is now on The Next Room talking about The Next Room. So where do you go from here? You said you're journaling, you're writing. Is there a book in there? I mean, and I would just say, do it because it is the best therapy ever. Even if, I mean, it's very rare that a book will become some kind of bestseller where you're going to make a ton of money. It just doesn't work like that. But I have to tell you, it is one of the greatest gifts ever to put your heart out there and speak your truth. And from what I can gather, people are really they're gaining perspective from my particular journey, and it's allowing or giving them permission to kind of dive deep into that spiritual side of things and not be afraid. So it's been wonderful.
yeah, oh, I think I might have it. Hold on. Ah, there it is.
Let me see. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, how fun.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
gorgeous.
so I take this, and irony is Amber was supposed to be my name, and Mum
Ah,
went with Callista at the last minute, and I
wow.
thought it was just nice to have the Amber Stone.
Yeah,
Um, but if you're talking what the next journey would be, I do think that, yeah, I think you mentioned to me that maybe it might be possible to do a memoir or something like that. So I think that's probably something I could do in the
absolutely.
healing process. But
Yeah,
anything that can help anyone at the moment, like if it just helps one person to inspire through the journey of the walking along the side the grief, and having amazing podcasts like yours, and helping with that journey, I think is paramount. And
good.
especially now, I think we just need to take pause. I think
Yeah.
COVID, the one thing that we needed to learn is to take pause and just slow down. And
Yeah, no
yeah,
kidding. Yeah, what
mm.
other podcasts are you listening to? Because if people are listening, they're probably like, Jane, ask her what else I should be listening to. So
The
go
the
ahead.
next one, paramount, is Shades of the Afterlife.
Oh, I love her.
Um,
Sandra.
yeah,
Sandra.
Sandra's awesome.
She is really such a pure, kind-hearted woman. I mean, when you hang out or you see her on one of her podcasts or on her Zoom calls or her YouTube channel, she's just pure love and light. I love her. She's great.
She's
Good.
she's amazing. I
I'll let
listen
her
to
know
her.
that we gave her some love on The Next Room. She'll dig that.
Please, yes, no, she's awesome. I also listen to Spirit Sisters in
Okay.
Australia.
Beautiful.
Her name is Karina Machado.
Okay. Love it.
She's beautiful. she's one of those girls that I'll go to and just like if I've got like a coinky dink sort of weird spiritual thing that happens, I send her a photo and she just gets blown away by it.
Awesome.
Uh and like just a lot of meditation. David Gendelman, I think it is.
Okay.
Yogi Brian,
Awesome.
he's got a couple. Yogi Brian's awesome.
Good.
But yeah, I think the go-to ones at the moment, spirit medium, Squamish medium. She's a medium in Squamish, British Columbia. I listen to her a lot. Uh, podcast 11, I think it's called. Yeah, but mainly
Fantastic.
my go-tos are you and Shades of the Afterlife. They're my two go-tos, and Spirit Sisters as
That's
well.
great. Well, I just need to say personally before we wrap up, because we're almost through here. Thank you, because I think because of Calista, Stuttard, that my listenership, down in Australia has grown. And it's so cool to see, from Perth to Melbourne to Sydney. Um, my goodness, it's great. So I'm just like, let's go. I want to come down and visit and do a book talk and do a live podcast. It'll be super fun. So I appreciate it. I think it's your energy that is making it so fun for me down in Australia. Final thoughts? We're almost running out of time here.
Funny thing, a butterfly just flew past the window again.
Of course. Of course, your mother going, okay.
Yeah,
That's
time
great.
to wrap it up, Cal.
That's great.
No, I'm very appreciative of the opportunity to be able to speak with you and have such a wonderful friend out of all of this. And I'm so looking forward to your second book. Um, but yeah, I do firmly believe that spirit does exist, and I'm glad that I had you on the journey to walk alongside the grief.
Oh, that's beautiful. And we will meet. I have a feeling.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much. You've been listening to The Next Room. Calista Stuttard is my guest today. A beautiful story, a tragic story, but as you can hear, that this woman is so full of light and love, and she has just taken her grief. And I love what you said earlier about walking alongside it, because that's it. You don't get over it, you don't work through it, it doesn't end. I really love the gentle vision of walking alongside your grief. So thank you for that. I'm going to use that and I will credit you for that. That was beautifully put. Thanks so
Thank
much
you.
for listening to The Next Room. It's a podcast where everything about death, it's dinner conversation. Let's see, Catherine Gordier is going to be on the show in a couple weeks. Also, Donna Ashworth is scheduled to come on the show. Pamela Osley, Claudia Bratton, Jacob Cooper. I'm trying to think who else. All kinds of cool people are coming on the show. I mean, it's unbelievable how many lovely individuals keep saying yes and showing up for me. Thank you so much for tuning in to The Next Room. I'll catch you again in a couple weeks. Be safe and have a great, great rest of your week.